The story begins by introducing Mr. Peabody, an extraordinary dog unlike any other, gifted with unmatched intelligence, quick wit, and countless talents. Peabody was never adopted as a puppy. Families saw him as strange, too clever, or simply too different, and as a result, he grew up without the warmth of an owner. But instead of letting loneliness break him, Peabody embraced his uniqueness. He studied relentlessly, mastered science, art, law, and even sports, and went on to graduate from Harvard at the top of his class. His brilliance gave him a purpose to leave his mark on the world and prove that even a dog could achieve greatness. Among Peabody's many innovations, one invention stood above the rest: the Wabach machine, pronounced Wayback. This powerful time machine allowed him to travel across the centuries and witness the grand moments of history firsthand. For years Peabody used the Wabach for personal exploration, but his life took a new turn the day he found an abandoned baby boy. Rather than allow the child to grow up alone as he once had, Peabody chose to raise the boy as his own. After passing a legal battle for custody, he officially adopted him and named him Sherman. Peabody raised Sherman with both affection and intellect. He taught him about science, history, culture, and life itself. The two developed an unbreakable bond, strengthened further by their many shared adventures through time. Together, they experienced ancient civilizations, crossed paths with legendary figures, and watched the rise and fall of empires. To Sherman, Peabody wasn't just a father, he was also his guide, teacher, and closest friend. One of their earliest adventures seen in the film takes them to France during the late 1700s, on the eve of the French Revolution. Posing as aristocrats, they attended a lavish ball, only to be swept into the chaos of rebellion when angry citizens stormed the palace. Peabody was captured and placed in a guillotine, but through his quick calculations and ingenuity, he escaped the blade and outsmarted the revolutionaries. He and Sherman fled back into the sewers, surfed the rushing water, and returned safely to the Wabach. The pair laughed off the danger as another successful mission. The next day, Sherman began his very first day of school in the present. Armed with knowledge far beyond his years, thanks to his father's lessons and their time-traveling experiences, Sherman impressed his teacher with flawless answers about George Washington. But his brilliance also drew the wrong kind of attention. Penny Peterson, a popular classmate and the teacher's star pupil, grew jealous of Sherman stealing her spotlight. During lunch, Penny confronted Sherman in front of everyone, mocking him for being different and cruelly calling him a dog for being raised by one. She even stole his dog whistle and put him in a headlock. Feeling cornered, Sherman instinctively bit Penny's arm to break free. The injury left her in pain, and though Sherman had acted in self-defense, the incident quickly escalated. Sherman was sent to the principal's office where Peabody was called in. While the principal tried to mediate, the situation worsened when Miss Grunion, a strict and prejudiced agent from Child Protective Services, entered the scene. She had long doubted the suitability of a dog raising a human boy, and Sherman's biting incident gave her new ammunition. Miss Grunion warned Peabody that she would conduct a home inspection. If she found him unfit as a parent, she would remove Sherman from his care. Determined to prove himself a responsible father, and to mend the relationship between Sherman and Penny, Peabody invited the Peterson family, Penny and her parents, Paul and Patty, over for dinner. Peabody used all his charm, wit, and culinary skill to impress the adults, while encouraging Sherman to make peace with Penny. But things didn't go as planned. While Peabody dazzled Paul and Patty with his sophistication, Sherman and Penny were left alone. Penny, still resentful, teased Sherman and accused him of lying about his knowledge of history. In his frustration, Sherman revealed the secret of the Wabach. Penny didn't believe him until he showed her the machine, and before Sherman could stop her, she activated it and flung herself into the past. Terrified, Sherman rushed to Peabody and confessed what had happened. Though disappointed and angry, Peabody quickly put Penny's parents into a hypnotic trance to keep them from discovering the truth, and then set off with Sherman in the Wabach to bring Penny back. The trail led them to ancient Egypt, where Penny had become engaged to King Tutankhamun. Initially, she was thrilled at the idea of marrying royalty and inheriting his fortune, but her excitement turned to horror when she learned of the custom that a pharaoh's wife must be buried alive with him upon his death. Penny wanted to escape, but by then she was already trapped in the rituals of the palace. Peabody and Sherman tried to rescue her but were captured and thrown into a tomb. Using his keen intellect, Peabody solved a series of booby-trapped puzzles and guided Sherman safely through. Together, they escaped just in time to interrupt Penny's wedding. Disguising themselves as the god Anubis, they demanded the ceremony be cancelled or else Egypt would be cursed. Their ruse worked temporarily, but when their disguise collapsed, chaos broke out. The trio barely escaped back into the Wabach, leaving Egypt behind. Their troubles weren't over. The Wabach was running dangerously low on energy, so Peabody steered it to Renaissance Florence, where they sought the help of Leonardo da Vinci. While Peabody and Leonardo devised a way to recharge the machine, Penny convinced Sherman to sneak off. The two explored Da Vinci's workshop and discovered his prototype flying machine. Against Peabody's warnings, they tested it. For a brief moment, they soared above Florence, exhilarated. But the joyride ended in a crash. Though Da Vinci was delighted his invention had flown, Peabody was furious with Sherman for disobeying him. Their relationship grew strained. To make matters worse, Penny revealed Miss Grunyon's plan to take Sherman away. Tension between father and son reached a breaking point, and while they argued, the bobback was sucked toward a black hole. Peabody barely managed to stabilize it, only to crash land in the midst of the Trojan War. In ancient Troy, Sherman, hurt by his father's scolding, ran off and joined the Greek army under King Agamemnon. Peabody and Penny found him, but danger struck when Penny was trapped inside the Trojan horse as it barreled toward a cliff. Peabody bravely saved both children, but in doing so, he appeared to fall to his death with the collapsing structure. Sherman was devastated, convinced he had lost his father. Refusing to give up, Sherman piloted the bobback back to the present, but instead of returning to safety, he aimed for a time only hours earlier, to try to undo Peabody's fate. Despite warnings that interacting with past versions of themselves could destroy the space-time continuum, Sherman pressed on. Back in the present, multiple versions of Peabody and Sherman appeared simultaneously. Ms. Grunion arrived and witnessed the impossible, using it as evidence that Peabody was unfit. The paradox caused a rupture in time, merging duplicates and creating wormholes that pulled historical figures and monuments into modern-day New York. Suddenly, George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, Leonardo da Vinci, Albert Einstein, and countless others appeared in the present. Buildings collapsed under the weight of giant artifacts and chaos spread across the city. Back in the house as Ms. Grunion reports the incident to the authorities, Peabody, Sherman, and Penny rush into the ballback, hoping to undo the chaos. But instead of stabilizing, the machine malfunctions, leaving them unable to travel through time. Meanwhile, fragments of history, monuments and famous figures from the past begin pouring into the modern world, turning the city upside down. Eventually the ballback crashes, and Peabody is seized by animal control. Branded as dangerous, he faces the threat of being put down. In a desperate plea, Sherman steps forward, admitting that the chain of events was his responsibility. He proclaims that he would rather be a dog as noble as Peabody than any ordinary human being. Sherman's heartfelt declaration moved everyone. Even the great leaders of history sided with Peabody, praising him as a better parent than most humans could ever be. The Petersons also came to understand the depth of his love for Sherman. With their support, Peabody was granted a presidential pardon, officially securing his custody of Sherman. Still, the rupture in time threatened to unravel the world. To fix it, Sherman piloted the ballback while Peabody performed rapid calculations. Their bold plan was to travel just a few seconds into the future, resetting the natural flow of time. The maneuver worked, wormholes closed, monuments and figures returned to their rightful places, and history was restored. At last, peace returned. Peabody and Sherman, stronger in their bond than ever, resumed their normal lives. Sherman went back to school, now best friends with Penny, while Peabody continued guiding him with love, patience and intellect. Their adventures were far from over, but one thing had been proven beyond doubt. Family isn't defined by species but by loyalty, sacrifice and love.